I'm Cody Combs, social media journalist from The National, reporting from Abu Dhabi. It's Inauguration Day in the U.S. Former president, outgoing president, Donald Trump just departed the White House as president for the last time in just a few hours. Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. Vice President Kamala Harris will become the first female president of the United States in U.S. history. Let's get right to our correspondents who are in Washington, D.C. We have Willie Lowry in Washington, D.C., and also Joyce Karam. Willie, I'm going to start with you since you were there ever since the insurrection, essentially, that historic moment, that terrifying moment for so many. That has affected this inauguration to some extent. This is not your average inauguration. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Cody, you're absolutely right. This is by any stretch a very different inauguration than we will have ever seen. But it was always going to be that way because of public health concerns around the COVID-19 pandemic. The incoming Biden administration was always going to ask for a much smaller, more reserved ceremony. But the events of January 6th and the security that has sprung up around that has really kind of compounded that. So there will effectively be nobody on the National Mall. The National Mall is closed to the public, and in fact, there's 19,500 American flags posted on the mall in lieu of the crowds that would usually swell there. You know, that's kind of a really defining moment of inaugurations, at least since Ronald Reagan's. The crowds on the National Mall, and of course it was a big talking point for former president, or soon to be former president, Donald Trump. But so nothing is normal this year.
And now I'm going to bring in Joyce Karam. We're just a few hours away from Joe Biden taking the oath of office, becoming the next president of the United States. When that happens, however, we've been told essentially by his chief of staff long ago that he's going to have a busy first day. He's got resolutions he wants to sign. He also, in the days ahead, might have to deal with this whole impeachment thing that might be taking place. Tell us what to expect in the hours ahead and possibly days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, Cody. It's a big day in Washington, D.C. We saw Donald Trump just leave the city the way he came in, polarizing, divisive, and angry at the political establishment. Right now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are at church. They will head to the Capitol, where the president will be inaugurated in exactly 3 hours. After that, it's going to be presidential business the rest of the day. We know that he will sign executive orders and directives that would reverse Trump orders related to the Muslim ban, other orders related to the vaccine, releasing the vaccine stockpiles. Something else he is planning to do as soon as he comes in is start vaccine centers in the U.S. I mean, for those outside the U.S., it's easy to look at Biden and say, oh, what is he going to change on the global level? But truth is, there are so many problems within the U.S. that he is inheriting. As you mentioned, the Capitol attack. So his first two priorities would be healing the nation, and number two, dealing with the COVID crisis that had already left 400,000 Americans dead.
And Willie, D.C. is a largely liberal-leaning city with more than 90% of the population voting for President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. But it's also a city that takes pride in tradition, democratic tradition, such as this inauguration. It is celebrated on a bipartisan level. I want you to give me a sense, if you can, how has that affected the psyche of the city that takes so much pride in these traditions?
I mean, we are in a lockdown, so that already affects how DC is expressing, a lot of joy at Trump leaving office. As you mentioned, 93% have voted for the Democratic ticket. I think that's the highest, actually, out of all the American states. However, you are seeing some just little things, just expressions in the city. For example, candles. A lot of people put out candles to just welcome and to be, in line with what Biden and Harris did at the mall yesterday. When Biden won on November 7, when the election was declared to him, you saw just spontaneous celebrations. People were just, putting music loud. So we're waiting for, exactly the noon hour here to see how people will express themselves. You're not seeing big parties because, as Willie mentioned, a lot of the stores are actually closed today. There are fears over security, especially after the Capitol attack. I mean, what you saw on January 6th is nothing that DC has seen before. Like, the city has seen protests since the Vietnam war era. So this is very different time for America. The polarization is very deep, and in a way, everybody trying to stay safe, whether it's the virus or whether it's political upheaval.
I would just add, to give you a kind of an idea. So I was in my backyard this morning, and my neighbors across the alley were already on their roof pointing out the Capitol building, trying to find a vantage point to see the festivities if possible. I don't think they're going to have any luck, but that's kind of, to give you a sense, there are people like that all across the city trying to partake in the moment any way they can.
All right, so there you have it. Thanks very much, Willie Lowery, Joyce Karam, the Nationals correspondents in Washington, D.C. Just a quick recap for those of you joining us. President Donald Trump has just left the White House as president for the last time. He arrived at Joint Base Andrew, where he gave a brief speech essentially saying that he felt he laid the foundation for Biden to have some success. He also spoke at length about the coronavirus and how he thought soon that would be turning around for the United States. Of course, at the end of that, you had the YMCA playing, and Trump departed at that point. That song had become a favorite of his throughout the campaign which he did not win to secure a second term as president of the United States. In just a few hours, Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. Stay with us at thenationalnews.com for the latest developments. For now, reporting in Abu Dhabi, I'm Cody Combs.